Laps on them last week.
Exactly. Erin, how offensive is that he's suggesting that there's too many white teachers? If he's making that argument, you could say, well, like maybe there's too many white male politicians. So Terry McAuliffe, step aside, sir, right?
Great point. I'm not surprised that the Democrats are using identity politics and race to try to win elections. But what parents want to see in their classrooms is education. They want the teacher that is the most qualified to teach their children. I am a parent and I talk to parents every single day. The mothers and the fathers are the people that are going to change this country and vote for their children. And they want their children to get an education that is not based upon critical race theory, reading, writing, arithmetic, the old school subjects that make you a successful adult, not race baiting. And I think the parents in Virginia have absolutely had it. That's why we see Glenn Youngkin really rising in the polls. And today is going to be a real bellwether for parents across this country and for teachers across this country and for the critical race pushers across this country to see what direction our country would like to go in.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this race is a referendum on the Biden administration and their policies because this race has become somewhat of a national issue with such important issues, as you pointed out, education. This is something that people are feeling across the country as critical race theory has been implemented in many of the schools across the country.
People will react enough to possibly, there's always room for disappointment, push Youngkin over the edge.
Exactly. Erin, what did you think about that dirty campaign trick? I think that these people are being let off the hook. Like, I'd like to know exactly who participated in that. You'd think if like the other side did that, if Republicans did that, they'd be canceled immediately. Like if I dressed up as a white supremacist to try to go hurt the opposing party, like I would probably never be able to get a job again. So would you like to see people held accountable? I'm sure you would.
Of course I would, but there's no accountability when it comes to the left. The Republicans and the Democrats have a completely different standard of justice that is applied to them. And we already know that the mainstream media is basically an arm of the Democrat Party or a Democrat super PAC, so they are protected. They can virtually do whatever they want. The Lincoln Project can do whatever they want. They're almost a darling of the left. They lied, and what they did was a terrible hoax. And by the way, it has gotten no media coverage from the mainstream media outlets whatsoever. And this is really sick and scary because people, like you said, out there think that this really happened and this really occurred and these people really feel this way. And it's not true at all. And I think that we should have a lot more integrity around our elections. I think we should have more fairness, more transparency, and more honesty. And by the way, one of these people, from what I've been told, is a woman. I think the one second from the left. And obviously one of the gentlemen is African American. So that would make an interesting group of white supremacists. This is really sad and sick, and we deserve better as a nation.
Well, we know from the left that they do try to make it seem like African Americans can be white supremacists. If you remember Larry Elder running against Gavin Newsom in California, like there were actual idiot reporters who were trying to suggest that he was the face of white supremacy.
The hatred, the N-words that come out against him from Democratic people. You don't need to actually make a hoax. You don't need to make it up. The hate is in a lot of their hearts, and they're always trying to direct it at Republicans and conservatives, say, no, you're the ones who hate, but really they're just projecting what's in their own hearts.
Exactly. And Erin, you kind of touched on how this race is a referendum on the Biden administration, and it is, but the fact that the polls have been so close, I think says a lot.
I think we've seen Youngkin really rise in the recent weeks after Terry McAuliffe's comments about how parents aren't in charge of their children's education. And he sort of doubled and tripled down on that, but then was sort of coming back from it. But I think that, like I said earlier, that the parents here are really concerned about what their children are learning in these Virginia schools and across the country. And the parents are going to make the big calls. This is not a red state by any stretch of the imagination. It's pretty democratic these days. And for as close as it is, I think even if McAuliffe wins, I don't want to see that happen. I think the Democrats should take notes and take pause and say, wait a second. These agendas that we're pushing, whether it's defund the police or critical race theory or the identity politics, it's not working and the tides are changing. We need to really rethink our strategy and have some more common sense and some logical thinking.
All great points. Thank you so much for joining me, Chris. Erin, we appreciate it.
Thank you.